You're watching France 24. Time now for Top Story. And in the United States, Republican presidential hopeful Mitt Romney has delivered a withering attack on incumbent Barack Obama's foreign policy record. He accused the current administration of leaking classified details of the military raid that killed Osama bin Laden for political gain. Romney going on to suggest that Obama had stood by as Washington lost global supremacy and leadership of the free world, and that the West had failed in its approach to Iran's nuclear program. This ahead of a visit to some of the US's most important allies. For more, I'm joined by Armen Georgian, our international affairs editor. Hello to you, Armen. Why this sudden focus on foreign policy from Mitt Romney?
His tax returns have dominated the debate in the last couple of weeks, so he's got to move the agenda on. But also, Chris, of course, this is partly about shoring up sections of the conservative base who like to see a Republican candidate being tougher on foreign policy than the Democratic opposition. That's the way it's always been. And it's been difficult to portray the Democrats as weak on foreign policy since that raid that killed bin Laden. And of course, Obama launched that very provocative advert, would Mitt Romney have authorized the raid on Abbottabad? So this is about trying to turn the tables back. But again, Chris, just to say it's always a domestic context to these foreign policy twists in the election campaign.
Okie dokie. He made this speech in Nevada. Was there anything in that you saw which really suggested that he'd act any differently to Barack Obama?
Just a sharper rhetoric on Iran, really. And, of course, he's been hammering home that Obama lost too much time in the first 2 years of his presidency by being nice to the Iranians. You remember the New Year's message on Persian New Year in 2009 and those kind of things. Let's take a listen now to Romney on Iran.
Now, there's no greater danger in the world today than the prospect of Ayatollahs in Tehran possessing nuclear weapons capacity. Yet for all the talks and conferences, all the extensions and assurances, can anyone really say we're further from this danger now than we were 4 years ago? The same Ayatollahs who each year mark a holiday by leading chants of death to America are not going to be talked out of their pursuit of nuclear weapons.
So what would he do if he can't talk them out? Attack Iran? It's not clear on the specifics. Similarly, on Chinese currency manipulation, on the war in Afghanistan, a sharp rhetoric, but we're not clear what it would actually mean if he were president.
OK, Romney, of course, is about to get his passport out and head to Britain, Poland and Israel. Why those three countries?
Well, I think he's got a view of Britain as having a special relationship that perhaps it didn't have with Obama and Gordon Brown and David Cameron. It's worth noting that Romney's advised on Europe by a man called Niall Gardner in Washington, who's British, and was a foreign policy advisor to Lady Thatcher. So he has this sort of old-school view of Britain and America as having a destiny together. Probably fair to say a rather dim view of the European Union. Note that Romney is not going to France or Germany on this trip. The difficulty is, as we can see there, David Cameron and Obama on a visit to Washington earlier this year. They were very chummy. They even ate hot dogs, went to a baseball game. That rather embarrassed the Republicans. They gushed forth praise to one another. And I think beyond that, David Cameron and Obama are actually quite similar. They're both very multilateralist. And they don't have this Thatcherite edge of, this hardness in British foreign policy that says it has to be with America at all costs. And therefore, I think it will be interesting to see how that develops. In terms of Poland, again, this old school view perhaps that Romney has, Poland a bulwark against Soviet communism and now against Putin's Russia. Romney saying that Russia is the number one geopolitical foe. It'd be interesting to see if he repeats that message, not exactly what the Polish government probably wants to send out to its neighbour. And then thirdly, Israel. Of course, one could expect a much closer relationship with Mr. Netanyahu if the two are in power in 6 months from now. Let's take a listen to Mitt Romney on Israel.
Obama is fond of lecturing Israel's leaders. He was even caught by a microphone deriding them. He's undermined their position, which was tough enough as it was. And even at the United Nations, to the enthusiastic applause of Israel's enemies, he spoke as if our closest ally in the Middle East was the problem. The people of Israel deserve better than what they received from the leader of the free world.
Chris, people say this kind of comment is about trying to siphon off American Jewish voters from the Democrats. Could be that, but I think also fair to say that Romney really does line up with Netanyahu much more than Obama, not just in his political instincts, but also being a right-wing businessman, keeping taxes low, free enterprise, free markets. And let's be honest, Netanyahu's always felt more comfortable with Republican leaders than with Democrats, whether that's Bill Clinton or Barack Obama.
OK, we'll find out more about Mitt Romney as he launches his world tour to our international affairs editor, Armin Georgian. Thanks very much.
You.
That's it for this edition of Top Story. Do stay with us here on France 24.